I'm Marty Smith, and you're watching my episode of Like a Farmer.
Hey y'all, it's Pat. Welcome to another episode of Like a Farmer. Today, I am in Lake Norman in the great state of North Carolina, and who I have on here today, you're probably used to seeing him on TV. He's one of ESPN's most well-known guys, Marty Smith. Marty, thanks for coming on the show today.
Welcome to my home. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for being.
It's an honor to get to spend time with you, and I appreciate you guys coming all the way up here to Tar Heel State to hang out with us. Made sure that we put your Florida Gator helmet right there in the center, nice and prevalent.
Yeah, I do. I was hoping you saw that. So really the LSU helmet was where the Gator helmet was, so I had to move that up.
Understood.
Gators is right in the center of it.
Understood.
So
I know where your allegiances lie.
I had to do some redecorating. I want to do a segment. I want to start off with a segment that I like to do on the show, and it's called This or That. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You got to choose which one or the other, and then I want you to ask me one, okay?
Okay.
First one is going to work with no hair gel, or you have to shave the beard. What are you doing?
No hair gel all the time. The good Lord blessed me with a lot of hair.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because I'm in my mid-40s, and some of my buddies I grew up with, their hair's run away from them like a scalded dog. So I do look like Beaker from the Muppets when I don't have product in my hair. It just kind of straight up and orange.
Yeah.
But that is far superior to babyface Marty.
No beard, yeah.
So I'm definitely going no hair gel. And it's not gel. I use this it's American Crew forming cream. It's like this.
Okay.
It's fancier than hair gel. It ain't Dep or LA Looks. No offense, LA Looks.
Yeah, there we go. We still love you. It's a great one, actually. And I'm with you on the whole no beard shave. Like, if I shaved my beard, I mean, I have
That's a good beard, man. Like, it's
Thank you,
well
man. I appreciate
cropped.
it. I appreciate
Mine's
it,
a little bit haggard right now.
There you go. So you're used to doing radio, TV, one or the other. Which one are you choosing? Radio segment or TV segment?
That's a tough one.
Yes. Gotcha.
That's a tough one. And the reason that I like radio is the opportunity to expound.
Yep.
There's more time to let the content breathe. On TV, brevity is king. In most areas of life, brevity is king. Mm-hmm. But radio allows you that opportunity to share very intricate detail in storytelling. It offers you the opportunity to laugh a lot. TV does too, but I guess if I had to choose one or the other, I'd still probably choose TV because the visuals.
You just went all in on how great radio is, and then
the visuals matter.
Okay, I like that.
So I would probably still say TV.
Awesome, that's a good one. Sixth generation citrus and cattle farmer.
Sixth?
Yeah, sixth generation. So I love beef, man. I mean, I'm going steak most of the time I sit down at the table. You're a big beef guy too.
For the vast majority of my life, we've had Angus cattle on my farm.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that today.
I grew up eating steak at every meal. In my adult life, I don't eat as much as I did at one time.
Yep.
But, boy, ain't nothing better than
a good piece of steak.
Cranking off a piece of steak now.
So my question's going to be, and I got a little picture I want to show you of Mr. Marty Smith chewing down on some.
Let me tell you something now.
Steak.
That might be the greatest steak I've ever had in my life.
It looks unbelievable.
That is from the Beef folks. They sponsor the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Daytona.
Yep.
To open the season. And every year, my colleague Ryan McGee, who was in that photo with me there, he and I do our show from Daytona. And one year we got the opportunity for those guys to have their chef cook this tomahawk for us.
Wow.
And oh my word, I can't describe to you. It was perfect. It was perfect. It was pepper crusted. Oof. It was outrageous. And I was messing with the chef. I'm like, hey man, you got any A1?
Yeah. Hey,
he looked at me like he wanted to assassinate me.
For those wondering what that means, if you get a good steak, You never ask for sauce. Please don't ask for sauce. If it's good, you won't need any sauce. So that leads to my question. You going ribeye or filet?
Filet.
Filet.
Yeah.
Why?
I think because it's a more tender, smaller cut. And, you know, if you're in a fancy pants restaurant,
Yeah.
that's
Filet's
pretty much what they're offering you.
Yeah. I like a little bit of fat, man. I'm a ribeye guy.
I try to stay away from the fat if I
Yeah.
can.
Maybe I need to jump on that train. Guess I need to jump on that. All right, so your turn. You ask me one.
You can either give up farming or give up your current job.
So, like a farmer, we started to advocate for the American farmer and to educate the American people. Like, we need farming, right? I mean, that's
No
what
doubt.
keeps us fed, clothed, etc. So, it would suck to have to quit advocating for them, but I'm not going to quit farming, man. we've got to keep the train rolling. So, that's a good one. Mom, you heard that back home.
It's also an
Mom
unfair
runs the
one.
farm back home.
Sorry, that was probably. And you know what? In your specific case, they're symbiotic.
You're
at this
exactly
point.
right.
You,
Yep.
you're boots on the ground doing it, and also an example of that which you're promoting.
Yep.
So they kind of walk hand in hand.
You're right. Thank you.
It's a marriage.
Yeah. So let's get started. I want to talk about where you grew up, Parisburg, Virginia, rural America. I mean,
Very much so.
we've been traveling all around, and that's kind of what we've been doing. It's like, and you've seen some of these episodes. We're highlighting people that are well known from where they came from, and I'm trying to educate the people that know who you are. That you even got some lessons that you learned back in rural America, and that's what's brought to some of your success today. So let's start with Parisburg, Virginia.
That's right. Born in Culpeper, Virginia. Moved to West Virginia for a minute. My dad changed jobs, and then he changed jobs again, and we landed in Parisburg when I was 3 years old.
Okay.
And I still own my childhood home in which I was raised. We had a 398-acre farm, which is actually two sides of a mountain. We own the mountain,
Okay,
too.
yeah.
It's all timber.
Yep.
My granddaddy's home place, which is in Craig Creek, Virginia. It's on the Craig County side, neighboring county to where my childhood home was, which is in Giles County. Appalachia, heart of Appalachia, right in the mountains there. And it's still a working farm. I have a gentleman who runs it at this time because with my job with ESPN, I'm constantly on the run. My sister is an educator outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland, so we can't be there every day to do the day-to-day. So that's kind of the current status of it.
What makes you want to keep that farm going? I mean, why are you so passionate
No
about
matter
that?
where my branches may extend, I am rooted in Appalachia. It is who I am. It is who I will be. And you were discussing the lessons learned on that land and in that area. I carry them with me every single day. I grew up going to that farm before dawn with my dad. When I was growing up, we had about 75 head or so of Angus cattle. Mm-hmm. My grandmother worked that land every single day till she was 93 years old, and the Commonwealth of Virginia took her driver's license away. Wow. She would drive over the mountain every single day, and she would work every day. And she had these gnarled, calloused hands with chipped pink fingernails. And she would sit. She had an old Chevy Cheyenne that she drove over the mountain. It was blue with a white top. And she would sit on a box of staples that you build fence with. Mm-hmm. She was so small, she would look through the steering wheel, not over it. And she had a bucket hat. It was Miss Eunice. Everybody knew her.
Miss Eunice.
And they'd take care of her, and they would get out of her way as she was driving down the highway at about 40 miles an hour.
Yep.
And she was a very special person. I never knew my grandfather. They bought that land in the 40s before Daddy was born. My daddy was born in 1947, and they worked that land every single day. They were both educators, my grandparents, and they had worked that farm. And from the time I can remember, we had those cattle.
Yep.
We had a lot of hay. We had corn. And my grandmother's garden, which was probably an acre. Mm-hmm. And it's, you can't get a tomato that tastes that good at the Harris Teeter. I can tell you that. So I learned the value of getting your nails dirty. I learned the value of calloused hands. I learned the value of understanding the land. And my daddy's best friend is a guy named Gordon Jones. He still lives there right now. And not a formally educated man. Mm-hmm. He was not a college-educated person, but he could tell you when it was going to rain to the minute. I've never met anybody more intelligent. I also love hunting. I love eating what you kill. And we got some big old bucks out there. So there's a beautiful community that comes with that. Yep. You take care of each other. You watch each other's backs. And I'm just so full of gratitude that that was my education of what farming is.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is.
Work.
Yep.
It is back-breaking, and I will tell you, if you've not stood in a hayfield in late July, mid-August, and understand what that teamwork is. I mean, we, as a family, we recruited high school football players
Yep.
to throw our hay.
Yep.
And they became our family. And I did it when I was a young boy and I was too frail to throw the bales. My job was twofold. It was, one, you take the bales off the baler and you drag them into piles.
Yep.
Which made the operation more efficient for the high school boys that were throwing them on the trailer and taking them back to the barn and throwing them in the barn. I'd spend my whole summer day, because it was an operation. You know this.
Yep.
You cut it on Tuesday, you bale it on Wednesday, and then you do it. It's every field. And it's a very long answer. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. This is great.
My best friends growing up, all of our parents had farms. They were all adjacent farms. And we had an operation going. We would cut one of my fields on Monday, and then on that same Monday, we were baling Patrick and Stevie's. And on Thursday, we're putting it all in a barn, and then we come back to mine.
Yep.
Just like
Golly.
that.
Small town USA.
We were actually so blessed because my grandmother actually paid us.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, when it's family land, is a blessing beyond words.
Yep.
And I just learned not to bitch and moan and bellyache.
Yeah.
I learned to do it. And I remember very distinctly, I have a high school senior right now, my son Cameron, and he works. Now, he don't work on our farm or anything like that, but he works. He has a job. And he'll come home and be like, Dad, I'm tired. And I'll be like, let me tell you about walking uphill both ways. But my dad, every summer, when we got out of school in June, first thing we would do is we'd get in the truck and we'd drive down to the farm. Our farm was about 15 miles from our home.
Yep.
And we'd drive down there, and he'd hand me an electric sander, and I'd get on a ladder and climb up on we had 3 red barns. It was very important that our barns were red to my grandmother. And I'd climb up on that.
Why is that? Just because?
Because to her, it felt like we were taking care of it.
Yeah.
That we were honoring the blessing of the land.
Yep.
That our stuff looked good.
Yep. I love that.
I do too. She was meticulous in that because they saved everything they had to buy that place.
Yep.
And that was part of what I'm getting ready to tell you. You know how if you have 10 roofs, they'll rust.
Yep.
Well, my dad, I'd climb up on that roof and I'd sand the rust spots and repaint the rust spots. And you're up there baking like an egg. You are frying like an egg.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I'm about as ginger as they come. Back then in the mid-'80s, you didn't use SPF.
Sunscreen or anything.
You took your shirt off and you just cooked. And you know, that is real man work right there.
I love that.
I'm just grateful for what it was because it helps me maintain perspective on everything that we have. And it's allowed me to pass that on to my kids.
Yep.
And I tell my kids, I just straight up tell them, you're spoiled. But that's not your fault, it's mine.
Yep.
I want you to have, but you're going to respect what you have.
Yep.
You're going to honor what you have. You're going to be philanthropic and kind and open-hearted to other people and give because I demand those things.
Yeah.
And I'm a little old school.
I can tell. I love that. I mean, and your work ethic, and we'll talk about it more, that you've brought from the farm to your career today. I feel like, you know, you utilize what you learned on the farm to what you do today. And I want to hit on some lessons that I've read about that you bring to your family today. The no technology at the table, the yes ma'am, no sir, yes sir. Like, tell me about those things.
I struggle with technology, and I think a lot of parents do.
Yep.
That have children now. This morning, my youngest was she's 11, she's in 5th grade. She was like, Dad, she's like, she wants a phone. I'm like,
at 11.
You don't need, you're not getting a phone. You're not getting one. So
how old were you when you got your first phone?
23.
Oh, wow. 16.
23. Well, you're younger than me.
Yeah.
See, it was a different.
Thank you. That's awesome.
You're younger than I am, and it's a battle, man.
How old do you think I am, just out of curiosity?
I mean, I would say 32, 3.
30.
Yeah.
So put a couple years on me. It's okay.
So, like, I'm a lot older than you then.
Yeah.
You got to think, like, I was a senior in high school when you were born.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Think about the difference in kind of what, like, that interim, that increment of time is massive in terms of what technology was and its availability.
Yep.
So the internet didn't exist when I was in high school.
Yep.
So now, especially with COVID,
which has changed a lot.
we had we did a really good job with my oldest and my oldest loves video games.
Yeah.
So it's a battle. Do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, with conviction, with passion. Do it right the first time.
Yep.
That does not happen most of the time. We have to, it's over and over.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying it wasn't that way for me, too.
Yeah.
I'm sure my parents were like, dude, clean up your room.
Yep.
What are you doing? It's not my job.
Yep.
When COVID hit, it changed everything for parents of impressionable teenagers and younger because they learned virtually.
That's correct.
They socialized virtually. And if we wanted to allow them to have a social life at all, we had to allow hours of virtual usage of their devices. And it's really hard to get that toothpaste back in the tube.
Great point, yep.
Because it becomes an expectation and a habit. So we've battled that. Now, if we're having a family dinner around the table, no chance. And any dinner, like sometimes if we're busy, my kids have to eat by themselves.
Yep.
And they'll want to be in that device because they consume information differently than I did and Lainey did. When we were kids, we ate around the table.
Yep.
My parents had Dan Rather on the television. And then it was Alex Trebek.
Yep.
That's what our evening was. And then whatever show my daddy wanted to watch. But we were talking about each other's day.
Yep.
And so I want that. You learn a lot about your children, and you learn a lot about their path and their concerns and their worries by that human interaction, not texting their buddies. And that includes me.
Yeah.
That includes my wife. I can't be texting my, a source, or I can't be texting my buddies or whomever.
One of the famous guys you have in your phone.
And be, that's it can't be do as I say, not as I do. It has to be do as I do.
Yeah.
And that means I can't be doing it too.
I respect that.
It's unique, man. And I know every parent right now deals with this. It is difficult. And even college admission. Cameron is starting the process of applying to college. We had paper. We wrote. They don't do that now. There's an app.
Yep.
And so I could go on for days.
Yeah.
Pat, there's a story that I would love. This will give you an idea of the foundation principle of this land.
Love story time with Marty Smith.
My dad woke me up at old dark 30 one morning, and he said, "Boy," that's what my dad called me. He didn't call me Marty. He said, "Boy, get dressed. We got to go down to the farm." And I'm like, "All right, is everything okay?" He's like, "Just get dressed and come on out." So we get in the truck, and it's dark outside. My old man lit one Marlboro light off the next from the time I remember seeing him for the first time until the day he died. And we're in his little blue Ford Ranger, short bed, 2-door, and we're driving down 460 west 460 east towards our farm. Mm-hmm. And it was dark, and he took a drag off that Marlboro light, and I could see tears rolling down his face. And that was the first time I'd ever seen my daddy cry. I only saw him cry twice ever. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, "Daddy, why are you crying?" And all he did was he took a drag off that Marlboro light, and he said, "Boy, Rufus got hung up in the fence, broke his leg, and we got to go down here and put him down." Mm-hmm. That was our bull.
Yep.
And that told me at that young age, I was maybe 10, 1986, 87, something like that. That told me all I needed to know, like, okay, these animals mattered more deeply to my parents and my grandparents than I realized. I mean, I knew we loved our dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
But, we're running these cattle through headstocks. We're giving them the medicine they need. We're this, that, and the other, tagging them. And when we had to go do that, and I had to watch my dad do that, and he didn't want me to. He's like, you need to look over there. Again, I saw him cry twice. And one was when we put Rufus down, and the other one was when my mama died. Mm. And that tells you like the personal connection with the land and the livestock and the work and the conviction. And I'll never forget seeing that.
That's an unbelievable story. And people need to know that. And it was always a quiet afternoon when it was calving season, and a cow would have a calf, and that cow wasn't getting back up after having that calf, and you knew what you had to do. It was quiet times when you had to do that, because farmers, they're raising this livestock to feed the world, but they treat them as that too. I mean, it's their job. I mean, it's how passionate you are with what you're doing at ESPN. I mean, they care for the livestock, they love the land, and they do all the right things. And when adversity hits them like that, they have to take it by the horns and just do what needs to be done.
It obviously left an indelible mark for me.
Marty, we've been talking about family a lot, and there's one person that I know you have some relation to, and I love to sit back, watch some college football, and drink Jack Daniels on my on my days off.
Yep.
Tell me about the relation to Jack Daniels, man.
Okay, so it's a fascinating story, truly. Back in the mid-1800s, there was a preacher in Middle Tennessee named Dan Call, C-A-L-L, like
Yep.
call on the phone. And Pastor Call had a general store as well as his ministry. And out back, he brewed a little bit of sauce, a little bit of brown water back in the back there.
Heard that.
Well, at some point, he brought in an orphan, and that orphan was taught the whiskey-making trade. Well, at some point, Mr. Call was at a crossroads and decided, okay, it's either the faith or the fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm either going to preach the word or I'm going to brew the sauce.
Sauce, yeah. I love
Can't
that.
have it both ways. So he chose the church, and the distillery went to Jack Daniel, who was the orphan.
Wow, did not know that.
Which means I better have like TSA pre-check to the pearly gates, because if so Dan Call is my great-great-great-grandfather. 3 greats.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's funny because my grandfather, James Massey, my mom's dad, was the preacher man in George Patton's Third Army, World War II, Battle of the Bulge. And came home from the war, started his ministry, and I don't think my grandfather ever had a drop. And he wasn't terribly thrilled with how much I like it, but he was so proud that his great-great-grandfather started it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And brought Jack Daniel in. So that is, no, I'm not related to Jack Daniel, but my great-great-great-grandfather started it.
That's awesome. It's a great story. Wow.
I mean, it'd be pretty sweet if all those bottles back there said, Dan Calls.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. You've got a great collection back there.
Thank
too.
you. Yeah,
That's
I like
awesome.
bourbon, man.
Are you are you mixing JD with some Coke or some Sprite?
I think
or
the
you
greatest taste in the world is Jack Daniels and Coke.
Wow.
My favorite taste. And
It's a bold statement.
I love it. I like it better than ice cream. And, but
Me too,
yes,
actually.
with Jack, I am mixing. With some other bourbons, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a big cube guy.
Big cube guy.
Don't,
For sure.
I don't want anything neat. Pappy, I don't want anything neat.
Yeah.
I just don't enjoy that experience.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, it brings me back to the Salty Dog in Gainesville, man. Just shooting shots, neat, yeah. But I'm a big cube guy too, so respect on that. I want to jump back to high school. State football champion, Marty
State
Smith.
champions.
Love that. Congrats. You still got the ring?
I still have the ring.
Love that.
I'm not like Buddy Garrity. I don't have it on right now, but
Yeah.
greatest show of all time. by the way.
Greatest show of all
Greatest show of all
time,
time.
Friday Night Lights.
I'm rewatching it right now. It's
Are
actually
you?
on my Netflix right now. I'm rewatching it. Coach Taylor's a superstar.
Coach Taylor is a beast. Some people like to compare me to Riggins.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go. Riggs.
Big Riggs, man. No, I love that. So you think about where you grew up, football in rural America, football in small towns, I mean, that's their gospel most of the
Well, I
time.
mean,
Hit on that where you grew up and what football in that small town meant and kind of your vision and what you see football all around rural America, kind of what it does to those
High
communities.
school football is a thread that weaves through the American fabric. And if you played the game, whether it was in Appalachia, Compton, California, Maine, Florida,
Yep.
Texas, Ohio, Seattle, there is an understanding of, going back to life lessons,
Yep.
what being between the lines means. Football is the consummate team experience. If you're not your best self, if you don't have the conviction to demand of self, to be disciplined, to be a great teammate, to do your damn job, then the whole machine lets down. Because if I'm not my best self, you can't be your best self as a unit. That's Nick Saban's process.
Yep.
That's what it is. Collectively, we are the best version of self.
Yep.
And the sacrifice that comes with it, and the bonding of all different backgrounds of people, different financial statuses,
Yep.
different races, different belief systems, religions, but you're all the same
Yeah.
when it's time to play. All the socio-political lines that divide us outside of that are gone when you're between the lines on the field.
Yeah.
And that's what I love so much about it. And specifically to where I grew up in a Friday Night Lights town. That's my town.
Yeah.
If you want to rob anybody in Parisburg, Virginia, just go do it on Friday night, because everybody's at the game and nobody locks their doors.
Yeah.
And our names are in shoe polish on the plate glass storefronts. Everybody gets in a big caravan to go to the away games, following the bus. It is that town.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, I didn't pay for Dairy Queen for 3 years. Everybody meets at the Pizza Hut.
Buffet
After
or
the
no
game.
buffet? Buffet at Pizza
Well,
Hut?
back in the day, buffet.
Buffet, yeah.
And unfortunately, RIP, our Pizza Hut just closed.
Oh,
Breaks my heart.
dang it.
But
I want to stop because this is a very important question. You have to choose top 3 pizza places, okay? And there's 3 pizza places that are kind of like at that mecca.
you talking about chains.
Chains, correct. Pizza Hut, Domino's, Papa John's. Like, put them in your order.
Okay. Are we doing like pan?
Whatever you want. So I'm going thin and crispy Pizza Hut, and that's my number 1.
Okay, that's your number 1. My daddy used to love thin and crispy sausage. And that was heat, man. That was
so good.
super heat. I would say Pizza Hut pan, Papa John's, and Domino's. Okay. I'm not a Domino's.
Yeah.
Domino's is not my jam.
I'm with you. I'm going Pizza Hut, Papa John's, Domino's too.
Got to be pan Pizza Hut, though. Papa John's is the truth, man.
It is good, but I'm a thin and crispy Papa
Yeah,
John's
you can't-
guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that.
No,
So-
hey, that's what interviewers do. We're like, squirrel.
All right. Outside of football, chess club, man.
Chess club.
You played some chess in high school.
Love it. I was on the chess team. We were a good chess team. My teammate, Jason Brillo, was probably the number 1 player in the state. And my best friend growing up, Mark Vinson, called him Bones our whole lives, was about the 3rd ranked player. Both of them went to the University of Virginia. The rest of us did not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Like to do chess in college?
No,
Okay. I
to
didn't know
be
if-
doctors.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
and Bones, the guy that I was just telling you about, was the trainer for the Tampa Bay Rays for years at the big league level, and until this year when he decided to get off the road because his wife, they had a son.
Okay.
And, but yeah, man, I love chess because of the acumen required of seeing what's going to happen before it happens, and be able to adjust your thought process based on what you expect to happen. And then it's the mind game between you and your opponent of who's seeing what faster.
For sure. Yeah.
I played Michael Vick.
I know. I heard.
I did
You got your ass beat too.
He whipped my ass. I went down to Palm Beach, or Hollywood, I guess it was, and we sat on the beach together and had an amazing conversation about his very unique path.
Yep.
Mistakes made, he was a phenomenon, and I'm a Virginia Tech guy, so,
Yeah.
I mean, He's the guy. And we sat there and played chess and it was distracting for both of us because I was interviewing him while we did it, but that didn't matter. I can't use that as an excuse. He kicked my ass, man. He was really good. And learning about the culture in prison, kind of the way the chess hierarchy worked in prison, was fascinating from him.
Huh.
And that piece is on YouTube. Y'all can go watch it if you want to, but
That's awesome.
I'm a big Michael Vick fan.
Yeah, me too. You played sports growing up, and you've been in sports your whole life. Like, outside of maybe just playing out physical ability, I mean, what turned your athletic dreams into now what you're doing?
Losing ball. I don't want to get too weird here, but
It's okay.
I will say it because it was just said to me by someone that I was interviewing that they believed that their positioning was predestined. And ESPN is not my purpose. Mm-hmm. ESPN is a platform for my purpose, which I believe is kindness, effort, passion. Every single day, there is so many things that we face that are out of our control.
Yep.
But when we wake up every single morning, we control how kind we're going to be to the people in our path that day. We decide if we're going to give every last ounce of ourself to find the best version of self, and we decide if we're going to have undeniable positive energy.
Yeah.
Nobody can take those from us. That's ours. And I believe that that is what I'm here to do. And as a result of that, ESPN has given me this amazing platform to share other people's stories, other people's path, other people's strife, other people's joy and triumph and failure and hurt. And I take it very seriously. But I was not set on that path until I got to college. I went to a school called Carson Newman College first in East Tennessee.
Yeah. Played baseball there.
Played middle infield there. Yep. After 1 year, that was not for us. My sister was going to school there too. Very expensive. I decided to transfer over to Radford, where I graduated from. Radford University in Virginia, near where I grew up. I assumed that I would be able to just join the baseball team. I had to try out, do a walk-on tryout, had a terrible tryout, didn't make the team. So for the first time in my life, since I was 4 years old, I was not part of an organized team. And I was depressed. And I don't care if if high school football is your top tier that you achieve, or you're Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, and you get to do it on your terms till you're done. When it leaves you, there is a very distinct void that is almost impossible to fill.
Yep.
So I was in this headspace where I was down, where I felt rudderless. I had no purpose. And a buddy of mine was dating a girl who worked in the Radford University Sports Information Office that takes the stats, that does the media guides. And she said to me one day, "You need to get off your ass and come to work with me." And I was like, I am not. That is not happening.
Yeah.
And then one day I just got tired of being tired and said, I'll go with you. And I walked in there, and the director of that office was a gentleman named Mike Ashley. And I sat down in front of him and I said, "How you doing, sir? My name's Marty Smith." And Mike had actually covered some of my high school football games. So he was like, "Oh, I know who you are. You number 9. And damn right I'm number 9. And he goes, "Well, what do you need?" I said, "Look, man, you don't need to pay me. I need to have a family. I need something to do." And they were dying for help. So he threw me right in there. And that then led in my junior year to being the the contact for the women's basketball team at Radford, traveled with the team, did their media guide, etc., which then led to the Roanoke Times, which is the major regional newspaper where I grew up, where Radford is, hiring me to cover high school sports, and the local short track, New River Valley Speedway at the time. It's now Motor Mile Speedway. And then that led to me getting a stringer position covering Virginia Tech football for the Washington Post my senior year of college.
Yeah.
So I was writing for Roanoke Times and Washington Post and had a full class load.
All at the same time.
And mama was sick.
Wow.
So there was a lot going on my senior year. But I'm going to tell you something, man. I was so driven. You're going to meet a lot of people in your life. I am not the most talented reporter, damn sure not the best looking, but you're never going to outwork me, and you're never going to outpassion me.
Boom. I'm
You're
pumped
not.
up, man. I love that.
Because I know I was never the most athletic player on any team I was ever on. I maintain, going back to our state team, I was the least talented starter in the history of my high school football program. I will say that for the rest of time. Now, I did just learn one of my best friends and teammates just passed. He's the greatest athlete I've ever been between the lines with ever. His name's Rayfield Milton. Rest in peace, brother. I love you and I miss you. But I was asked by Rayfield's family to speak at his funeral back home. 50 of our teammates came. He was Michael Vick. He was that kind of player. Yeah. But I learned after that I was leaving. But some of my high school teammates and I were going to get some cold beers. And my coach, Steve Ragsdale, who is an icon, he's a Virginia High School League Hall of Famer. Coach Ragsdale pulled me outside. He said, "Son, I've heard you say something and I need you to stop saying." And I was like, "Oh, no, what have I done?" You know how you don't want to disappoint.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And he grinned. He said, "You are not the least talented player I ever had." I said, "Coach, that's not what I said. I'm the least talented starter." Because, most of my teammates played at the next level. We're all state. Yeah. I was none of that stuff. I was a guy who just the chess pieces fell in place where I got to be a starter and was a glue guy. But nobody loved it more than me. Nobody wanted it worse than me. And I'm still that way.
That's freaking awesome. Good stuff, Marty.
Thanks, man.
Love that. So let's jump into the career side of it. So, all right, Marty graduates college, boom, first TV appearance, senior.
So I'll get you to – I'm so long-winded on this, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'll get you to ESPN in a hurry, okay? I graduate from Radford.
Yep.
I go write for the Lynchburg News and Advance, which is another 65,000 distribution paper in Virginia, Central Virginia. And I covered Liberty University football and NASCAR racing. The reason I took that job was because I wanted to hitch my wagon in NASCAR. Brother, we're talking about 1998. We're talking about Dale's just won the Daytona 500. We're talking about Jeff Gordon won 13 races that year, and it's the Jeff Gordon-Dale Earnhardt rivalry that took that sport to the moon.
Yep, I agree.
It's Rusty Wallace. It's Ricky Rudd, Terry Labonte, Bobby Labonte. It's the dudes.
Yeah, it is.
All right? Tony Stewart would become a rookie the next year.
Yep.
So it was like the heyday, man. And I saw not only great potential for the sport, but I also saw my fastest path to the big time. Mm-hmm. So I went to Lynchburg. God's good. About 6 months into that job, I get a phone call from a lady, and she says, "This Marty?" "Yes, ma'am. I think you'd like to do a story on my son. I think it's going to be Joe Bob Jordan, the street stock driver down the street." "Okay, what's his name?" "Paul Brooks." "All right, ma'am, what's Paul Brooks do?" He just got promoted to vice president of NASCAR." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'd like Paul Brooks' number, please." So I called Paul. We had a great interview. I did the story. Paul liked the story. He sends me a amazing box full of 50th anniversary NASCAR, like desk furniture, like the business card holder and the pins with the clock with the marble base. I didn't have nothing. I mean, I didn't have a pot to piss in at this point.
Yeah.
I had asked Lainey to marry me. I bought her a little old ring. It was every dime I had, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm ecstatic, but I went straight to the computer. We didn't have laptops. I went straight to the computer and I wrote Paul an email. I'll come down to Daytona and scrub the toilets. I need you to get me out of here, man. I got bigger aspirations than this.
Yep.
He wrote me back. We don't have anything right now, but I'll keep you in mind if we have a position come open. Several months after that, I get a call, come to Charlotte, interview, drove down here in my Ford Ranger,
Yep.
in my daggum khakis and my polo shirt that I got down there at the Goodies. It was duck head, not polo. And I interviewed. For some reason, they gave me the gig, moved to Charlotte, started working for NASCAR. My first race was at Sonoma Raceway in California. So I ain't never been anywhere. I'd been to 4 states or something at that time.
Yeah.
Country comes to town, Jack.
Yep, I heard that.
So then a couple years after that, Turner Sports in Atlanta bought NASCAR.com. I went to work for them. I was enveloped into that deal.
Yep.
And then in the fall of 2006, actually, no, spring of 06, I get a call from ESPN out of nowhere. I answer this 860 number. Guy's like, hey, Marty, keep this under your hat. ESPN's coming back into the NASCAR world. We're going to broadcast races starting in 2007, next year. And we want you to be part of our team. And I'm like, oh, thanks, man. You got the wrong Marty. There's a guy named Marty Snyder. He's a phenomenal person, great broadcaster. I got his number. I'll send it to you. He was like, no, we love Marty, but I'm talking, you're our guy. And I'm like, is this a job offer? He goes, not yet, but think about it. I'm like, all right, well, I'll come home and tell Lainey, ESPN just called, and I think I got a job offer. And Pat, I'm a guy who'd rather crash and burn and fail knowing I can't than wonder when I'm 70 years old rocking on the porch if I could have.
Yep, totally agree.
So I jumped in with both feet. And from there, it just kind of chess pieces played their way to where we are right now. I covered NASCAR full-time for them through 2014. And as soon as the last NASCAR race of the year ended in 2014 in Miami, Florida, I came home and had an email from the football folks saying, you belong in college football, start studying. And I just couldn't. That's a funny story. I'll tell it if you want me to. But
yeah, go for it.
Dude,
I mean,
I
you've
didn't know
known NASCAR your whole life, then you get a call that, and you had never done college football.
Nope, not one down.
And was it Ohio State?
Yep. So,
yeah.
All right,
We're going
so
to Ohio State,
you did your
yeah.
homework.
I
So
did. Thank you. Got a great team. Shout out team.
you guys did your homework. Good job. So, well, I mean, you knew the Jack Daniels story. You definitely did your homework. So, all right. So the last year of my, I guess, third contract was 2014. So I didn't know kind of what was next. Was I going to try to go to another network? Because, ESPN was leaving the NASCAR world. Mm-hmm. NBC was going to take over what they currently have with Fox.
Yep.
They split the season. So do I try to go to another network, or do I just stay with ESPN if they'll have me and see what happens? We'll talk to my agent, Matt Kramer, about it, and ultimately I decided, you know what, man, I'd like to challenge myself. Let's stay at ESPN, and I don't care if they send me to the steel chainsaw races out there in Idaho or the damn cornhole championships.
Yep.
I'll do anything.
Yep.
I just want to see what's out there. And we made that decision. We signed. I wasn't supposed to start until January 1 of 15. So our expectation as a family was, I'm going to come home from Homestead, last race of the NASCAR season, second week in November. I'm going to have 6 full weeks, the holidays at home, where I can be dad. Because my wife is an angel.
Yep.
When you cover auto racing, you cover NASCAR, and your employer has the rights to those races, you're gone. It was 4 or 5 days a week, every week for 20 straight weeks.
Yep.
And we had 8, 5, and 2 at home. at the time. Laney had to manage that. And we had some unique circumstances. My son has Tourette, where they tick, and a lot comes with that. And he's a total stud, and I couldn't be prouder of him. I've learned more from my son in this life than any other teacher I've ever had. But Laney had to manage that now. Yeah. And I told her, I'm going to be home. So I come home from Miami, walk in the front door. It wasn't this home. It was our previous home. And I'm, Daddy's home, ready to do our thing. And she had tears in her eyes. She's like, honey, I just need you home. I need you home. I'm exhausted. And I said, don't you worry. I'm here. Now, those tears, I'm a man. We're insecure, Pat. Mm-hmm. It hit me in this weird egotistical way where I was like, I'm out here grinding, trying to do the right thing. And ultimately, that was the most self-centered way. Now, I didn't verbalize that to her. It's just what I thought. Yep. Most self-centered way I could have responded, because she was right. She's out here with the hard job, because the stay-at-home mom itinerary is get them up, get them ready, change the sheets, piss diapers, poopy diapers, wash the sheets. Yeah. Like that is the itinerary for so many stay-at-home moms. And it's the most important, most difficult job that there is. And that's a Hall of Famer that I had as my partner.
Shout out Laney.
And so, okay, I assume I'm going to be home. We put our older two in the car, and she's taking them to school. And I sit down on the couch with my cup of coffee. And after a kind of a job you believe well done and completed, there's that cleansing exhale.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
That happens. Pull out my cell phone, open it up. My sweet little 2-year-old is playing in the floor. First email is from a guy named Lee Fitting. Lee was, at the time, the executive producer of College Game Day. And Lee's message was, hey, Marty, my name's Lee Fitting. I'm executive producer of College Game Day. I'm pretty sure that the NFL team wants you to cover Cam Newton, like be the de facto Carolina Panthers reporter, because at the time, Cam was about to be the MVP of the NFL.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He was a story every day.
Yep.
And he said, nope, you belong in college football. Your passion belongs with us. Start studying. I'm going to embed you with one of the 4 teams that qualifies for the inaugural college football playoff. And, brother, I could not, my mouth was agape.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, you got to be, because you don't get that opportunity is it's a grain of sand opportunity.
Yeah.
Imagine Adam Schefter.
Yep.
Or Woj, or one of those guys that is synonymous with a sport. I was the NASCAR guy.
Yep.
All of a sudden showing up doing Major League Baseball playoffs. You'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And trust me, I got a lot of what the bleeps. But sure as the day is long, brother. I studied. I was with Ohio State from the time they beat Wisconsin 59-0 with a third-string quarterback named Cardale Jones. Yep. And then they wrote a movie. They won the national title. Yep. And I was with them almost every day. And, sharing that with Laney, that was a difficult conversation. Like, because, Pat, I saw that email from Lee as a treasure map. I knew if I was willing to follow its direction, that I would locate riches beyond our wildest dreams. And I ain't talking about money. I'm talking about life experience, because I knew what college football was. Yep. I grew up going to games with my daddy at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia, and the sweetest memories I have with my dad, and mostly in my youth, were him waking me up and driving over the mountain going to watch the Hokies play football. Because I got to see him in a very different way. I got to feel his energy and be in the same energy and feel his love and hope he felt mine and eat a Reese cup and drink Coke.
Yep. Ooh, love Reese's.
Like, I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And what has come from that is quite literally beyond any wildest dream I ever could have had. I am grateful and humbled to a degree that is indescribable.
Yep.
And what a ride, man.
Yeah. Take the chance. That's what I got from that. I want to hit on one thing that I've read about and seen in your career, and that was you were covering NASCAR when Senior got in the wreck.
I remember every detail.
And that was that your first TV appearance when that happened?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna sit here and say yes. I'm 99.9% sure.
I've done my research.
And I mean that was peroxide, Marty, son. I had to bleach
I know. I
bleach
saw it.
tips and the whole thing. Dale Jr. and I made some real bad decisions back in the day, son, because that was Peroxide Jr. too. He also had bleach blonde hair at that time. We were trying to be rebels. What idiots. Anyway, all right, so that morning there was an overwhelming air that this was going to be a resurgent time for Dale, because he'd finished second to Bobby Labonte the previous season in the points in 2000. And this was the year he was going to break Richard Petty's championship record in 2001. And he was obviously very introspective. You could see that on pit road. He's very affectionate to Teresa. He's hugging Junior. They're praying. And it was just a beautiful scene. Like there was this awesome energy around him. Even more than normal. I mean, there was this aura around Dale.
Yep.
I've only been around a few people in my life who had that aura. You can feel the force field, MJ.
Yep.
There's a force field around him.
Tiger,
definitely.
Pat Spinosa, yeah, I know.
And I remember those last couple laps when it was so emotional because he'd given Michael Waltrip this opportunity. Michael was 0 for 462. And here he is running the car that Dale had believed enough in him to put him in. His namesake's running second. And he's going to watch those two run to the victory. One of those two guys,
Yeah.
now if Junior's wild enough to try, one of them two is going to win a day. DEI is going to win a Daytona 500.
Yeah.
And it's either going to be Junior's first and fulfill a prophecy, or it's going to be Michael's and break a big streak and fulfill Dale's promise for what Michael was going to do. And then the wreck happens. And people to this day will say Dale was blocking for those two. Only one person knows that answer. And so Sterling and him get together. He goes up the track, hits Ken Schrader. The angle of the car is such, and he hits the wall. But it did not look like it was that. There was that wreck all the time at speedways.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't fantastic where he was going ass over tea kettle and flipping and went out of the racetrack or something. We all just figured Dale would get out and be disappointed for a minute, but have that grin on his face and grab Michael around the neck in victory lane, and dude, we did it. And I was standing in victory lane. Let me back up. So my job that day was twofold. The first part of that was to run out to pit road and interview Rusty Wallace.
Yep.
Because Rusty had another near miss at Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to get Rusty's reaction to the near miss. Pat, I got out to the 2-car. Rusty's unbuckling. Window neck comes down. And he looks at me and he goes, "How's Dale?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." He was like, go find out about Dale. And I'm like, okay. I got ready to ask my question. And he goes, "Damn it, I told you to go check on Dale." Because athletes know, Pat.
Wow.
Athletes know when it's bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I went down the pit lane, And I got stopped by the police. And you could see the wreck in turn 4 down in the grass. Kenny's down there, Eminem's car, of course, the Black 3, ambulances. I'm like, they won't let me go. So I go back to find Rusty. Rusty's gone. So I went to Victory Lane. And I'm in Victory Lane. And I could sense the energy was weird. But I didn't think much of it. And there was Michael's publicist at the time was a friend of mine at the time named Brooke Mitchell. She's now Brooke Hondros. And I saw her and I'm like, dude, I don't know about this. They won't let me down there. They're like blocked off. And like you could just see her face shift. And then I went to the media room. And back then the media room was very small. And I walked in there and there are these old school, hard ass journalists. Ed Hinton, Mike Mulhern, Ben Blake, these guys that were NASCAR lifer journalists. And David Poole from the Charlotte Observer. Buddy, they're emotional, like different. I'm like, what the hell? There's no way. I mean, he might be hurt. And then my coworker, Dave Rodman, his wife worked in medicine down at Halifax, Daytona. And Dave, we had landlines back then. Yep. And we had a landline. Dave got on that landline. And he's talking to, I know it's Denise now, he's talking to his wife. And he just put his head on my shoulder. And he started to sob. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. And I walked out, Laney was with me, and she was sitting in our rental car with her feet up on the dashboard with a book in her lap. And I went to the passenger side of that car, and she looked up at me, and I could see her face, and she rolls the window down. She's like, what is wrong with you? You are white as a ghost. And I said, I think Dale Earnhardt's dead. And I said, baby, we're going to be here a while. I don't know what is about to happen, but if you need to leave, go. I don't know where we're going to get food. I don't know anything. But I'm looking at the garage area because where the parking lot for the media was, there was nothing but a chain link fence between that and the garage. And these guys I'd known for a couple years now were walking around like zombies. Sure enough, shortly thereafter, I was back in the media center, and Mike Helton, who at the time was the president of NASCAR, walked into the media center and said those now infamous words. This is undoubtedly the most difficult announcement I've ever had to make, but in the accident in turn 4, we've lost Dale Earnhardt. And there was cameras everywhere, because by then, CNN, all the hardcore news stations, everybody's there. And this is an interesting addendum to that. Again, we had that landline, and I had one of my second cell phone ever that was the first company issue one I ever had. And there were these speakers in the ceiling of the Bennycon Media Center. And in one hand, I had that cell phone held up to the speaker, and I had that landline in the other hand. And on one phone was Hank Parker Jr. I don't know if you remember Hank. Hank was one of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s best buddies. His father was a mini Bassmasters champion.
Okay,
Hank Parker.
Gotcha.
And he raced in what was then the Busch Series, and on the other phone was Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Who would ultimately tie Dale for championships in NASCAR. But they listened to that announcement on those phones real time. But it was such a crazy moment in time. CNN put me on TV, and I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't know how to speak at the time that way.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I said to you was brevity is king, and I've been anything but brief in this interview, but at the time I couldn't get my thoughts through my mouth. And I've never gone back and watched that. I'd be embarrassed to, but how are you supposed to encapsulate Superman dying?
Yep.
Because Superman doesn't die.
Yeah.
He was indestructible, man. And I'll finish with this. I've always admired Junior. There's a NASCAR right now because Junior made the decision to race. At the entire industry, teams, owners, sponsors, certainly NASCAR corporate, other drivers, everybody looked at Junior. Are we going to race or not?
Yep.
And Junior chose to race. And so everybody raced. And
golly,
he put a lot on his shoulders, man. And
yeah.
He's a stud. He's a great person. Brave, courageous guy.
Your career, I tell you, and you, Marty, to be honest with you, especially with this venture that I've been doing with Like a Farmer, somebody that I've been looking up to. I mean, you do a great job.
Thank you.
And whatever scenario you get put in, I'm curious, and you're co-hosting with this individual now, and y'all have had a great relationship, and it seemed like that started in the beginning, maybe at least with ESPN, but Ryan McGee. Tell me how that happened in y'all's relationship, and it seems like when you think about Marty Smith right now, you think about Ryan McGee.
Yeah, we're like Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah.
I wish. So we knew each other. We've known each other for a long time. I'm more than 20 years. I use Brooks and Dunn for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that Kix and Ronnie are friends of mine. They're acquaintances.
Yep.
I've interviewed them both about their amazing path. They're the greatest duo that's ever been.
Agree with that.
We can debate it all you want. I'm ready.
I'd agree with that.
But listen, their egos got in the way of their greatness. And their egos penetrated their relationship to the point where it would be, well, I'm a great singer, and I should just do this by myself. Well, I'm the one that wrote that song.
Yep.
Why does he sing it? Whatever those things were. And I told Ryan that if we want this to last, we have to be honest with each other. And if I'm doing something that's annoying you, you got to have the guts to come to me like a man and say it so that I have the awareness, so that I can either talk you through the why or alter my approach.
I agree.
Because if we don't do that, brother, this deal ain't going to work. If you're harboring ill will towards me or I'm harboring ill will towards you, that energy's going to be known.
Yep.
And then we're fractured. And if the foundation of what we are, which is the relationship, not the content is the relationship, it's never going to work. And we have tried very hard to do that, and we have done that. And there's been moments where he annoyed me.
Yeah.
There's been moments where I annoyed him, where he had to tell me, man, I don't know about that. Okay, cool. Let's talk through this. And then we can mend it and move.
Yep. That's awesome. You've had a lot of first-time interviews, Saban, Tebow, Brooks and Dunn. I mean, what is the best interview in your mind, like that you were just most excited about that you've had in your life?
This is a hard one for me, but I think it's Tiger Woods.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And the main reason it's Tiger is MJ has not said yes to me yet.
Okay, I like that.
MJ's my dude.
Yeah.
Like,
so you put him like, I need
MJ's
to
the
get
guy.
Okay. Yeah.
MJ's the holy grail interview for me. I can't wait for that moment. It'll happen.
Yeah.
Just hasn't
MJ,
yet.
you heard it here first,
and
man.
the reason that, there are many people I want to interview. A lot of people I want to interview, but Michael's number one. Now, when I got the opportunity to interview Tiger, again, there's a force field around that guy. When you're the greatest, and it's funny, I learned this year that Barbara Nicholas, Jack's wife, I always say Tiger's the GOAT. And this year, I was hosting at Augusta. This year, 2023, I was hosting at the Masters. And I said, we were showing a clip of Tiger, and I said, that is arguably the greatest of all time. Well, according to Mr. Nicholas's day-to-day guy, the great Scott Tolley, down in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
Said Miss Nicholas put her fork down and said, arguably, like, no, my husband's the GOAT.
That is
so funny.
Great.
But so anyway, I sit down with Tiger, and actually, let me back up. I'm sitting in the clubhouse at Medalist.
Yep.
We did the interview there, and I'm preparing my questions, and I had prepared like 50, which I then pared down to 30,
Yep.
which ultimately, no matter who I'm interviewing, I get it to 10.
Yep.
And I study those 10 religiously, and then I throw the notes away because I want it to be conversational.
Yep. 100%.
I want to shut my mouth and open my ears because invariably the best question is the follow-up question.
Yep. The hook. Yep.
So I'm going over these questions, drinking my coffee. This shadow washes across the doorway of the Medalist Clubhouse. I look up, and it's Tiger F. Woods. And I was like, oh, my God. So I got up. I went to shake his hand. He's like, no, man, bring it in. He gives me a big hug. And Larry Fitzgerald was with him. So he introduces me to Larry. And I said, man, what's going on? And I couldn't believe he gave me a hug. He said, you got to bring it in. I was like, man, that's awesome. He goes, look, man, the coolest thing that I have ever seen on ESPN is when you shotgunned that beer with Dale Earnhardt Jr. right after he got out of his car for the last time. And I was like, oh my God. I said, brother, we're gonna be fast friends then. You go win Augusta again, I'll be waiting on your ass at the 18th with a cold one. So we started off on he was in an amazing mood. And it was, as an interviewer of someone you've never met, it's nice to sort of know that you already have this mutual respect
100%
for one another.
Yep.
And he was phenomenal. And I was able to interview him for 20 minutes was the agreed time slot. So Tiger's publicist at the time, a gentleman named Glenn Greenspan, who now actually works for Lieutenant Dan Rooney in Folds of Honor.
Okay, yeah.
Who's a great American. Glenn steps in, all right, Marty, this is the last question. And Tiger goes, Glenn, it's all good, man. He's like, Marty, go till you're done. He gave us like 45 minutes, dude.
Damn.
And telling stories about sleeping with his first Masters green jacket like a blankie. Just like insane. Insane. And laughing, and we had the best time, and talking about his father and how when he was young, he would be dropped off at the Navy course out in San Diego where he learned the game, and he would lay in this ditch. And he would gather all these sticks and leaves and stuff and pretend to cover himself, camouflage himself.
Yeah.
And he would wait. He would wait until he heard it. And his father would say his name. And he would jump up out of the ditch and run to his dad and play the rest of the holes with his dad. And it's just like such rich
That's awesome.
content. And so I'd say it's that one. Now, being in China for a week with Cristiano Ronaldo was also wild, dude.
I could see.
That guy's famous, Pat.
Yeah.
Like famous.
Yeah. You see what, those guys, like a Messi coming over to
Right.
Miami now
That's
to
worked
play.
out well.
Correct, yeah. Who would you say is your favorite athlete, past and today?
MJ's my favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah.
Because he dared me to dream dreams that were unattainable. And he captivated me with his passion and his work ethic and all those things. I interviewed Craig Elo a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And you know who Craig is?
Yeah, I know.
So he shot over Craig
Correct,
in the playoffs when Craig was with the Cavs. And Craig was funny. He's like, at this point, I've just embraced it, man, because everywhere I go, everybody asks me. But Michael is a unicorn. He's a very different breed. And I've had the blessing of being around him a little bit socially in the last couple of years. And what I didn't know was how would he be when you bring up Brian Russell, or
Yep.
you bring up his famous moments,
Yep.
the shot against the Lakers. Does he want to talk about that crap?
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, I tiptoed into it, but he loves talking ball. And so fulfilling. But I would say my current, and this is going to be one that surprises you, I am infatuated with golf and the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And other than college football, which I don't care who the teams are, I don't care the level, I'm watching it.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't watch a lot of TV, man.
Yeah.
I never watch myself unless it's self-evaluation, which I've learned in recent years. I will watch any college football. On Saturday, it's understood the TV's mine.
Yep. In the house. That's it.
But every other day, y'all can watch whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I am infatuated with the tour, and I've gotten to where I've interviewed Rickie Fowler several times, and he's the most unencumbered celebrity you'll ever know. And he is so kind and so thoughtful and caring. And it's been so fulfilling to see him come out of this difficult stage where he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And now he's competing for wins every weekend.
It's unbelievable.
And when great things happen to guys like that, I feel the same way about Spieth. I say all the time, if you pay attention to Jordan Spieth, his spirit for servant leadership and for caring about other people, holy smokes, he's such a great example for others. I'm captivated by those guys and grateful for their time when they give it to me.
When you said that, that's why I put my head down. I don't have a great relationship with him, but when I was younger, and I played college golf and still today.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interviewing you in a minute.
And then Rickie, I always used to show up to the PGA Tour events, and I'm a Florida boy, and I was a kid that said, Rickie, I want you to be our next governor. And I went to 3 or 4 of the Florida, and Rickie, he finally saw me and took me to lunch. Like, I ate lunch. I'm a fan. Keep in mind, like, I'm a fan.
You gotta
and
tell the
Rickie
story.
is now, like, taking me to lunch. And
Where were we? Where did we eat?
It was after Bay Hill, and I want to say it was Chipotle or Moe's, one of the two.
Why did he take you to lunch? How did that unfold?
Dude, I ran. So he knew me from the course, and then we left the golf course, and we ran into him. And Joe, his previous caddy, I have a great relationship with Joe. And I went to lunch and walked in there as Rickie, Bubba Watson, and a couple other guys. But Rickie he would always talk to me to every single tournament, and like he always just showed me attention. Like Tiger's always going to be the guy, don't get me wrong, but when Rickie was getting on tour for a guy my age, guys and girls, we all wanted to wear Puma. We all wanted to be Rickie Fowler and orange on Sundays. Like, I don't think some people realize what he's done to the game of golf, and you hit it right on the head. This resurgence he's having right now is unbelievable, and everybody's a fan of that because he's such a good guy.
Even in his darkest times as a player, he was there for his friends.
Yep.
And that Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Rickie Fowler triumvirate.
Yep, I agree.
I admire them so much. And I'm going to tell you about JT now. When you are one of the best in the world, and you don't win a golf tournament, but you always stay to congratulate who does. I admire those guys so much, and their friendship, I've been trying for 3 or 4 years now. I want the blessing of sitting them all down together.
I know, yeah.
And maybe we can who knows? If I could get those 3 together, it would be so fulfilling because I just want to hear the stories that come with it because that friendship is so special.
Just let me sit in the back or something.
Yeah,
It'd be
man.
fantastic.
So have you played golf with Rick?
No, I got to show you some pictures after this, man. I was just a little kid, and we take pictures, and then the next tournament, he'd take me behind the ropes, and I was dating like my high school girlfriend. Bring your girlfriend. Like it was every
What a
tournament,
stud, dude.
It was great, man. God, I love Rickie, man. Fantastic. We talk about MJ a lot. Your MJ Jordan shoe collection's through the roof.
Outrageous. It's a problem.
There was one time, was it Kurt Busch who gave you a custom pair? Wasn't he like driving at the time? Or something?
You guys did do your homework. I'm very impressed. So everybody in the world knows I'm a Jays guy,
Yeah.
and it goes back to
What size do you wear? Just out of curiosity?
11. You?
I'm 11.
You're going to go home with some.
Oh yes.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
this actually comes all the way back full circle to the farm.
Love that.
So,
I'm ready now.
all right, so I'll get to the farm part in a minute, but everybody knows I love Jays, and Kurt just announced his retirement.
Yep.
But he was going to retire previously, and Michael called him. Michael and Denny Hamlin, Michael's co-owner
Yep.
in 2311 Racing, called Kurt and said, look, we're trying to grow this thing. We need a champion. We need a guy who knows what they're doing. We need you to help us build this. Kurt's like, oh, I can go drive for Michael Jordan? So Kurt takes the job. Well, I called Kurt. This was February of 22. And I said, hey, bro, look, the pace car is a Toyota. So I need a Toyota driver to ride me around full tilt around Daytona live on Sports Center. And I want you to do it. And he goes, hell yeah, I got you, man. We just got to figure out the logistics. So we figure out all the logistics, and we get in the car. And we're going around the racetrack. That thing probably goes 140, 130, 140. Yeah. It was a Camry. We're going around the racetrack, and they're so funny. Those guys got screws loose left and right. They're wackos, man. And he's driving one arm, down through the corner. And so we're going down a backstretch one time, and he goes, Marty, I know you love Jays just as much as I love Jays, and I brought you a little something. And he's going full tilt, okay, down the backstretch, and he reaches behind the seat and pulls a box out. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, son. I got so fired up, and I opened them up, and they were the Georgetown ones. Ooh. Is what they were. And like, not the easiest shoe in the world to get a crew.
Yeah.
I thought that was such an amazing gesture that he did that for me. And I just wore him the other day. Actually, you want to know? I interviewed him. I wore him to interview Rickie Fowler. So how about that?
That's
all
awesome,
coming
man.
full circle. But
full circle, man.
I probably have 75 pair.
Yeah.
Lainey came to me the other day and she said, Martin,
You got to do something about this.
our closet, we need to figure something out here.
Yeah.
But my job as a kid was
Baling hay.
working on that farm. And as I told you, my granny was kind enough to actually pay us. She didn't have to do that, but she paid us.
Yep.
And I saved up. Like, my daddy thought paying $150 for a pair of sneakers was the most outlandish, stupidest thing he ever heard in his life. So he's like, you do it. I saved up my hay money, and I went to Foot Locker, and I bought a pair of fives.
Yep.
The OG white fives. And if you remember back then, they still do it, but not nearly as bad. They've changed the polymer now. The bottom of them were clear. It was a clear polymer on the sole of the five that if you wore them outside, turned bronze.
Huh.
And so it would like compromise the sole of your J.
That's awesome.
Because the sole of the fives was the jump man on the toe.
Yep.
And then it was this clear sheen over it. I wanted mine to stay clear. So I carried my J's to school and put them on when I got there. And everybody always thought that was so, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I paid my hard-earned money for these. And so I'll put them on when I get in the hallway. Well, I'm not as particular, but I'm super particular about them being clean.
Yeah.
I clean them out after every wear. I wear mine.
Yeah.
I still have a few pairs that are on ice, but that's just because I haven't worn them yet.
Yeah. Haven't found the right fit yet.
But yeah, man, it's
That's awesome.
again,
man.
Michael is just so important to me in my path. I just can't describe to you what he is to me. And all right, this guy's got his own shoe. I'm gonna wear him till I die.
Yeah.
And so I now have an addiction.
That's awesome. I feel like another person that kind of gives you have a great relationship with him, but you talk about a lot is Eric Church.
Eric is a great human being. He is one of my dearest friends. We met in a meet and greet line, believe it or not. I fell in love with his first album, Sinners Like Me. In 2006, that record came out, and I just thought it was awesome. Everything he was saying I thought was cool. And then I lost my dad in 2008. And no matter what your relationship is with your father, whether he's your best friend, y'all fight like hell, you roll your eyes at him, he's constantly preaching at you. If you lose him, when you lose him, you realize that you've lost a compass. Because if daddy's around, if the roof's leaking, you call daddy. If the truck ain't starting, you call daddy. They got an answer, or they're going to help you figure it out. And then that's gone. And so you feel like your compass is just spinning, man. You don't know, you don't have a North Star. And I was definitely that way. And my mother passed in 98, so my dad made it 10 years physically after mom died, but spiritually he was gone and really gave up on a lot of things. And so our childhood home was in a bad way. And I made the decision after he passed that I was going to put it back together again. We were going to make it beautiful like mom had.
Yep.
And so we'd go up there and paint and, had a guy build a deck on it and put a roof on it and the whole thing. It's nice. We still own it today. But I would, as I was cleaning that place up, man, I was so full of hurt that I would drink Jack out of the bottle. I ain't necessarily proud of that way I was conducting myself, but it was the way I knew to manage my pain. And I had Sinners Like Me on, as loud as that sumbitch would go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sing it at the top of my lungs. And it was the perfect vehicle to carry my emotions at that time in my life. Well, at the end of that year, a buddy of mine got some tickets to see Chief. And he was playing a little old honky-tonk up the road in Greensboro called Arizona Pete's. And at that time, every ticket, Eric was just trying to make it still. And every ticket was a meet and greet, so we had the opportunity to meet him. I was in the back of that meet and greet line and having this back and forth with myself. Do I tell this man what his work means to me, or hedge a bit for fear he's going to think I'm a stalker?
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I don't want to be weird, so I'm just going to let him say, nice to meet you, take a picture, see you. And further up in the line I got, and the more Jack I'd drunk, I'm like, I'm never going to see this man again. Hell with it. I'm going to tell him. So I got up there on that bus, and I stuck my hand out, and I didn't have the guts to look him in the eye and say, hey, man, this is going to be weird. You saved my life with that album. I lost my dad this year, and I've not had much to turn to and not been able to process it, and that record is an amazing vehicle for me to carry my emotions, and thank you for what you've done with this piece of art. And I know that you know that one day you're going to be the biggest star in this format. And playing these little old half-ass honky-tonks ain't your calling. But I need you to know that every single night there's somebody in that crowd that desperately needs your words, and tonight it's me. So thank you for what you do and for saving me. And I went to walk off that bus. I was mortified that it came out of my mouth. Because that's kind of a weird thing to hear in a meet and greet line. He was like, hold on, man. Come back here and tell me some more. So I told him a little bit more, and that was that. He played the show. It was great. About 6 months later, I was in the garage at Pocono Raceway up in Pennsylvania. Phone rings. I'm a little shady about screening calls and answering numbers I don't know. 615 number. lady on the other end. She said, "Hi, Marty. My name's Judy McDonough. I'm Eric's church's publicist." I said, "I love that damn guy." She said, "We know." She said, "We're begging him to fish in this tournament. We need him to do some PR in the community." He'd been fired from the Rascal Flats tour at that time. We need him to do this tournament. And I'm like, "What's that got to do with me?" She said, "We had a meeting this morning, and he said, I ain't doing it. I ain't fishing in that tournament." Eventually, he pounded his fist on the table, according to Judy, and said, "You get that Marty Smith cat from ESPN to fly to Nashville, spend a day with me on the water, I'll do it. Otherwise, go bleep y'all self."
Yeah.
And he left the room. Very Eric thing to do. And I'm like, she said, "We'll pay you to come." I said, "You ain't got to pay me. I'll be there." So I called up Laney. I'm like, "Baby, I ain't coming home tomorrow. I think I'm going to be fishing with Eric Church tomorrow." She goes, "What?" I said, "I don't really know, but I just got a call from his label asking me to come to Nashville and fish." So I fly to Nashville, sleep on a buddy's floor. Next morning, get up, go to the marina, know Eric. Once you get to know him better, you realize there's chief time.
Yeah.
There's real time, and then there's chief time. I'm looking at this. We had this pro fisherman. I'm like, "Hell, man, I don't know the guy. I don't know where he is." I'm like, "But we ain't leaving. We're staying here." Here, 45 minutes late, here he comes, slinging in sideways in a Silverado, pulls a styrofoam cooler of beer out of the thing. I'm like, "All right, well, this is starting how I want it to start." We got drunk as Cooter Brown, laughed the whole time, cried a little bit, won the fishing tournament, Porter Wagner Memorial Fishing Tournament. And Eric and I do not talk every single day, but we, at minimum, text a day or two every week. Most major life decisions we're conversing with one another about. He just bought the Charlotte Hornets.
Yep.
And so that's been an interesting experience to kind of walk through that. There's a bar opening at 2nd and Broadway in 2024 called Chiefs.
Yep. Knew that.
And obviously it's his.
Yep.
Along with our great business partners, Ben Wepper and Stuart McWhorter and a bunch of those guys. And if you guys come to Broadway, when you go to Nashville, we're going to completely rewrite the game. Eric plays a badass for a living.
Yeah.
And he is a badass. But he's also the sweetest, kindest, most generous person you'll ever want to meet in your life. Very, very intelligent person.
Mm-hmm.
Funny as all hell.
Seems that way. I've yet to meet him, run around with the same crew that he, obviously Josh Allen and him have hung out quite a bit, but can't wait to meet him one day. I don't want to not talk about what you've been doing recently, especially with Sideline CEO.
Thank you.
And I know you might have had some Jack Daniels when you're writing it, because I know when you like to write books, you like to sip a little bit of Jack.
I do.
Preach on that.
Why do you think Hemingway drank whiskey?
I mean, I'm with you.
It does, and it's very interesting what happens as a creative mind. When you do that and you find that place, it removes your inhibitions.
Yep.
And you're able to find a vulnerability within yourself and shed a veneer that you may not even know you walk around with every day.
Yep.
And writing Never Settle, my first book, I had to do that. Because, man, I wrote some stuff in there. Like going back to Eric, I remember when Chief was coming out, 2011. We were on his bus, and he was pacing back and forth. This was before a show. He was pacing back and forth. I'm like, "What the hell's wrong with you, man? Sit down." He said, "Man, I got anxious energy." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Record. Nervous about this record." I'm like, "Well, I had been blessed to hear it at that time." I'm like, "The work's great. It's the greatest thing I've ever heard, greatest record I've ever heard in my life. Why are you nervous?" He goes, "Vulnerability." And until I was putting that book out, I didn't get it. If you are stripping yourself to the degree that he does when he writes a song, or I did in that book, you are making yourself vulnerable to the public in such a way that you have to be, you're putting energy into the world. You have to be okay with whatever energy comes back, no matter what it is, because it's real. And that is terrifying.
Yep.
And so I experienced some of that with my new book, Sideline CEO, as well, but Never Settle was a very different experience. Sideline CEO is yet another project that required tremendous passion, but so many Hall of Fame leaders gave me their time. Sideline CEO is not me. I'm just the conduit to the message. The Sideline CEOs are Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Dabo Sweeney, Roy Williams, John Calipari, Tom Izzo, Doc Rivers, Mac Brown, Jimbo Fisher, Patty Gasso, who just won her 7th national championship with Oklahoma softball, Kim Mulkey, who just won her 4th with LSU women's basketball. These are titans. Lane Kiffin is in the book. He's hilarious and was so introspective. You got to think about the amazing insight he has on Coach Saban's messaging. Right? I also interviewed Greg Sankey, who is the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. People don't know, Greg was a college golf coach.
I did not know that.
Was in 1991 the something coach of the year at Northwestern State University. And so I have 20 different individuals in there. Coach Beamer, Frank Beamer, who is God to me. His son Shane we grew up together. So I learned so much in these pages that I've incorporated into my daily walk about what exactly is leadership, what's the value of trust, communication, and again, shutting your mouth and opening your ears and listening, culture, delegation. Can the leader give the people that they've hired the responsibility to do the job and then get out of their way? Not micromanage. Crisis management. Leaders invariably have to manage crises. Self-evaluation. Are you willing to look at your work and be brutally honest? And then evolution. Are you willing to adjust? Because it's classic Eckhart Tolle. You either evolve or you die. And it's all of those pillars and all of those individuals' insight on those pillars in their words. I broke it up into like an oral history type of format. And boy, is it dynamic. And then the last part, I closed the book with, you remember Dale Brown?
I do.
I know you're a Gator.
Yep.
Coach Brown was LSU's basketball coach for decades, and with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson, and Shaq, Stanley Roberts, all those guys. And I told Coach Brown about the project when I was covering a Kentucky LSU basketball game once. And he goes, son, I want to send you something. I said, yes, sir. He sends me an email, Pat, with all of his correspondence with John Wooden.
Wow.
His letter to John Wooden. He actually spoke at Wooden's funeral. He went out to Westwood many times and took copious notes of Coach Wooden's tutelage. All of that is in the book. And Coach Brown gave me the blessing to use it. And so I think self-driven, uber-driven people who appreciate that type of content are going to devour it. And I think people that need that type of content are going to learn and incorporate it into their daily walk. I have definitely, I've taken it and demanded of self that a lot of it is in my modus operandi.
That's unbelievable. Great work.
Thank you.
I want to do one more segment on the show, and I call it The Biggest Gamble. Farmers, as you know, we take big gambles every day, right?
Every day.
I want to know 2 segments with you. What's the biggest gamble you've taken in your life, and then what's the biggest gamble you've taken in your career?
Okay. My career, I would say, is betting on myself. And
to go to college football?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think probably that even more than deciding to go. Deciding to go to ESPN at all was a big one.
Yep.
Because at the time, I had a good gig, man. I was a columnist in a sport that was burgeoning. I had personal relationships with the biggest stars in the sport.
Yep.
And writing is my greatest passion.
Yep.
And I will tell you this, one of my bosses at Turner said to me, "This is the biggest mistake you've ever made in your life." He told me, "You're making a mistake." Because they didn't think I was capable of doing television.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to put me on TV. TNT at the time had part of NASCAR's broadcast thing, schedule in the summer. They didn't do it. And I still, I try not to be a grudge holder.
Yeah.
I think that's a sign of weakness for me.
Yep.
Maybe not for everybody. It might motivate some people. For me, it's a piece of my weakness. But I still remember the people that didn't believe. And so me taking a chance and betting on myself, and as a person who'd never done television, had no idea what I was doing. The first race I ever walked into, I walked into ESPN's production trailer, and my boss said, "All right, Marty, tonight we're going to leverage your relationship with Dale Earnhardt Jr. After the race, want you to interview him. I want you to do a live to tape, and then you're going to wrap that sound on SportsCenter." He may as well have been speaking Sanskrit.
Yeah.
At the end, he goes, "You got any questions?" I said, "Yeah, what's live to tape and what's wrap sound mean?" And our big boss was in an adjacent room and just did that. He was sitting at a laptop with his back to us, and he just did this. And so I would actually say that was a bigger gamble probably even than betting on myself to stay at ESPN in 2015.
So, Marty, I appreciate you more than you know coming on this show. And like I've mentioned before, I've been following you your whole career. And what I'm doing now with Like a Farmer, I truly enjoyed having you on the show. I'm a farm boy too, right? I've got a Southern accent that some people can understand, some people can't. But I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I love being on the screen advocating for the farmer, my family who grew up as farmers, and everybody else, because we need them and they go through adversity every single day like what we've talked about today. But you have no idea, watching you through the years, what you've done in my life to take me to this new venture that I'm doing with Like a Farmer. So I appreciate you coming on the show today.
You know, I think I'm full of gratitude to do it, and you have done such a great job and put together such a great list of people who are passionate about the same things you're passionate about. It really matters because it's a voice in middle America and certainly rural America who don't feel seen or heard.
Yep.
And so for somebody with your position and doing things like you do with Ag America, it's fascinating to me how much people care and how much they appreciate seeing somebody who sounds like them.
Yep.
And it's just every college I go to in the South, students walk up to me and they have accents and they say, "My professors tell me I got to go to class to lose this accent or I'm never going to make it in television." And I go, "Well, that's bullshit."
Yep.
You know, all you got to do is look at me. Now, it's interesting that some people think I'm faking it. Could you imagine walking around life as if a Southern accent is considered beneficial in broadcast journalism?
You're exactly right.
So, but the greatest compliment that I can receive is you never forgot where you came from. And the folks back home and people in rural America say that to me all the time. And it is it fills me up because it's not, "Man, you haven't changed." Because when people say that to me, I go, "No, I have changed."
Yep.
People say that about my brother Jimmy Johnson, the NASCAR champion, all the time. He never changed.
Yep.
That's not true. He never forgot where he came from. Those are not the same thing. And I will never forget where I came from. I am so proud to be from Giles County and to be from Appalachia and to have grown up on the New River and to have floated in that water and to have baled that hay in Newport, Virginia and treated those cattle and gotten up at dawn with my daddy and put them salt licks in those troughs and cut them cow nuts. That's a whole...
Yep.
Tell you what now, our method of castration was a little different than most.
Yeah.
Old pocket knife.
I've seen it done.
Your poor consumer. Your people are going to be like, "What is he talking about?"
This has been great, man. And you just hit on it, and I want to say it again. Thanks for never forgetting where you came from, because you came from rural America, and you know who the farmers are, and you know how important they are, and they're going to really enjoy seeing this episode. And I'm going to end it with that. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you got to do to be like a farmer.